The readers of the four chaplains will now be escorted to their seats by the Girl Scout troop of the Bristol Service Unit. Please rise for the posting of the colors. Hand salute.
Salute. 2. Fall in. Call.
At this time, please welcome Miss Forestville 2018, Jillian Duffy, as she sings our national anthem. Hand salute.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, give proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Okay, while we're still standing, please join Bristol's Miss Chrysanthemum 2017, Emma Gilmet, as she leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Actually, from this point forward, I would ask that we all remain uncovered. At this time, Post 209's Senior Vice Commander and District 1 Vice Commander, Timothy McLeod, will now lead us in the invocation.
Eternal God, the source and giver of life, the destiny toward whom all life flows, we gather in this memorial service to remember those fallen heroes. Sanctify every good memory and cut short every vain attempt to treat their lives lightly. In their death, give us the honesty to appreciate them simply for those who are among us. In the awful waste of death for these four so young, we are dismayed at how transient and fleeting life is. Give us the grace to give them the integrity of their death. Bring peace to the troubled spirits of all those who have the courage to face their own death. Let their death be a bond between us as we are never far from death. Speak comfortingly to us that we need never fear the terror of death, nor flee from the rare privilege of life. Amen.
Please be seated. A special honor, remembrance of our POW and MIAs is rendered at most American Legion ceremonies. With us today to conduct this remembrance is our Post 209 Commander, Brian Avery, and assisting him is Post 209's past Finance Officer, Ron Gagnon.
Salute. 2.
To those who have served and is currently serving in the uniformed services of the United States, we are ever mindful that the sweetness of enduring peace has always been tainted by the bitterness of personal sacrifice. We are currently compelled to never forget that we enjoy our daily pleasures. There are those who have endured and may still be enduring the agonies of pain, deprivation, and imprisonment. Before we begin these activities, we pause to recognize our POWs and MIAs. We call our attention to the small table, which occupies a place of dignity and honor. It is set for one, symbolizing the fact that members of our armed forces are missing in our ranks. They are referred to as POWs and MIAs. We call them comrades. They are unable to be with their loved ones and their families. We join together to pay humble tribute to them and build witnesses to their continued absences. The table is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner against his or her suppressors. The tablecloth is white, symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's calls. The single rose is in a vase. It signifies the blood that may have been shed, the sacrifices to ensure the freedom of a beloved United States of America. The rose also reminds us of the family and friends that are missing, comrades, who keep faith while awaiting their return. The red ribbon on the vase represents the unyielding determination and proper accounting for our comrades who are not among us. The slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of their bitter fate. The salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of the families that await them. The glass. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast us at this time. The chair. The chair is empty. They're not here. The candle. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in our hearts and illuminates their way home, away from their captors to the open arms of a grateful nation. The American flag. The American flag reminds us that many of them may never return, and they have paid the supreme sacrifice to ensure our freedoms. Let us pray to the Supreme Commander that all of our comrades will soon be back with our ranks. And let us never forget their sacrifice. May God forever watch over them and protect them and their families.
Now, attention, salute. Two. Remove. Flag. Salute. Two.
Okay, at this time, please join us as we sing hymn 697, America the Beautiful. Okay, at this time, I'd like to welcome everyone here. We got a nice crowd. This is our third annual, and it's really nice to see a lot of new faces this year. We're going to start off by announcing, recognizing some dignitaries that are here. We'll start off with Dave Mills. Dave is a city councilman here in Bristol. Dave, thanks for being here. As I look around, Dave, there's Henry. I'm sorry, I didn't see you were hiding over there. We do have State Senator Henry Martin. Henry, thank you. Okay, with the American Legion, we have our past department commander and National Americanism Chair, Richard Anderson. Past department commander and Connecticut's National Executive Committeeman, Joe Jackson. And his wife, Joanne Jackson, who is a past department president for the auxiliary. We have two district commanders here tonight. We have District 1 Commander from Post 209, Ray Labossiere. And we have District 6 Commander George Castle. We have Madam Department President, current President of the Auxiliary, Laura Centino. Detachment from the Sons of the American Legion, Senior Vice, Rich Kilby. District 1 Auxiliary President, Ro Labossiere. And there's more people here, but we're going to say various district and department officers. Why don't you stand up just to be recognized? And that's both from the Legion and the Auxiliary. And some of the most important individuals that we have in this organization, can I have, I forgot one. And this is somebody that I shouldn't be forgetting. We have, from the Sons, past detachment commander. He's worn so many hats, I can't keep up with him. He's a good friend of mine. He is now the National Executive Committee man for the Sons of the American Legion, John Wright. I can go on with all the hats that he wears, but I think we'll stop at that. Thank you. And please, all the post commanders and squadron commanders, please stand up and be recognized. Thank you for being here. Okay, on February 3rd, 1943, the troop ship Dorchester was hit by an enemy torpedo, and sank to the bottom of the North Atlantic. Of the 902 young men on board, only 230 survived, and they owe their lives to the courage and leadership exhibited by the heroic 4 chaplains, who in sacrificing their lives left the unique legacy of brotherhood. This ceremony is a tribute to those courageous chaplains and the 672 brave young men who lost their lives on that fateful night. Further, this ceremony honors all those who have served and whose courage and faith have sustained our country. We have a responsibility to teach our children and youth about these great events, great sacrifice, for they are our future. They must know and understand what selfless service on behalf of others can accomplish. Those are my introductory remarks. We are going to, at this time, read about the story. I will now ask Squadron 209 Commander and National Executive Committee man for the Sons of the American Legion, John Wright, and Squadron 209 member and Boy Scout Master of Troop 9 to come up and conduct a reading of the Saga of the 4 Chaplains.
On the evening of February 2nd, 1943, USAT Dorchester was crowded to capacity, carrying 902 U.S. troops, merchant seamen, and civilian workers. Once a luxury coastal liner, the 5,649-ton vessel had been converted to an Army transport ship. Dorchester, one of 3 ships in the SG-19 convoy, was moving steadily across the icy waters from Newfoundland to toward a U.S. base in Greenland. Coast Guard cutters Tampa, Escabana, and Comanche escorted the convoy. Hans Danielson, the ship's captain, was concerned and cautious. Earlier, the Tampa had detected a submarine with its sonar. Danielson knew he was in dangerous waters even before he got the report. German U-boats were constantly prowling these vital sea lanes, and several ships had already been sunk. Dorchester, now only 150 miles from its destination, but the captain ordered the men to sleep in their clothing and keep life jackets on. Many soldiers sleeping deep in the ship's hold disregarded the order because of the engine's heat. Others ignored it because the life jackets were uncomfortable. On February 3rd at 12:55 a.m., a periscope broke the chilly Atlantic waters. Through the crosshairs, an officer aboard U-boat 223 spotted the Dorchester. After identifying and targeting the ship, he gave orders to fire a fan of 3 torpedoes. The one that hit was decisive and deadly, striking the starboard side, amidship, far below the waterline. Alerted that the Dorchester was sinking rapidly, Danielson gave the order to abandon ship. Fewer than 20 minutes, the Dorchester would slip beneath the Atlantic icy waters. Tragically, the hit had knocked out power and radio contact with 3 escort ships. The Tampa, however, saw the flash of the explosion. It responded and rescued 97 survivors. The Escabana circled Dorchester, rescuing an additional 133. One died later. The Comanche continued on, escorting the remaining 2 ships. Aboard the Dorchester, panic and chaos set in. The blast had killed scores of men, and many more were seriously injured. Others, stunned by the explosion, were groping in the darkness. Those sleeping without clothing rushed topside, where they were confronted first by the blast of Arctic air and then knowledge of the death awaits. Men jumped from the ship into lifeboats, crowding them into the point of capsizing, according to witnesses. Other rafts, tossed into the Atlantic, drifted away before soldiers could get into them. In the midst of the pandemonium, according to those present, 4 Army chaplains brought hope in despair and light in the darkness. Lieutenant George L. Fox, a Methodist minister. Lieutenant Alexander E. Goody, a Jewish rabbi. Lieutenant John P. Washington, a Roman Catholic priest, and Lieutenant Clark V. Poling, Dutch Reformed minister.
Quickly and quietly, the 4 chaplains spread out among the soldiers. They tried to calm the frightened, tend the wounded, and guide the disoriented towards safety. Witnesses of that terrible night remembered hearing the 4 men offer prayers for the dying and encouragement for those who would live, said Wyatt Fox, the son of Reverend Fox. One witness, Private William Bednar, found himself floating in oil-smeared water surrounded by dead bodies and debris. I could hear men crying, pleading, praying, Bednar recalled. I could also hear the chaplains preaching courage. Their voices were the only thing that kept me going. A sailor, Petty Officer John Mahoney, tried to re-enter his cabin, but was stopped by Rabbi Goody. Concerned at the cold Arctic air, Mahoney explained that he'd forgotten his gloves. Never mind, Goody responded. I have 2 pairs. The rabbi then gave the petty officer his own gloves. Later, Mahoney realized that Goody hadn't been carrying 2 pairs of gloves, and the chaplain had decided not to leave Dorchester. By the time most of the men were topside, and the chaplains opened a storage locker and began distributing life jackets. It was then that engineer Grady Clark witnessed an astonishing sight. When there were no more life jackets to hand out, the chaplains removed theirs and gave them to 4 frightened young men. Rabbi Goody did not call out for a Jew. Father Washington did not call out for a Catholic, nor did Reverends Fox and Poling call out for a Protestant. They simply gave their jackets to those next in line. It was the finest thing I had ever seen or hoped to see this side of heaven, said John Ladd, another survivor who saw the chaplain's selfless act. As the ship went down, survivors in nearby rafts could see the 4 chaplains. Bracing against the slanting deck, arm in arm, they were heard praying and singing hymns. Of the 902 men aboard the Dorchester, 672 died. When the news reached the United States, the nation was stunned by the magnitude of this tragedy and the heroic conduct of the 4 chaplains. Valor is a gift, Carl Sandburg once said. Those having it never know for sure whether they have it until the test comes. That night, Reverend Fox, Rabbi Goody, Reverend Poling, and Father Washington all passed life's ultimate test. In doing so, they became an endearing example of extraordinary faith, courage, and selflessness. In 1944, Distinguished Service Cross and Purple Heart were awarded posthumously to the chaplain's next of kin. In 1961, President Eisenhower awarded a Special Medal for Heroism, a one-time award authorized by Congress and intended to have the same weight and importance as the Medal of Honor.
Okay, at this time, I'd like the readers for the 4 chaplains to come up one at a time, starting with Senior Vice President of Unit 209, Jennifer McLeod, escorted by one of our Girl Scouts. She will be reading the story of George L. Fox.
George Fox was the oldest of the 4 chaplains. In Vermont, he was called the Little Minister because he was 5'7". Lying about his age in 1917, he enlisted in the U.S. Army as a medical corps assistant. He received the Silver Star for rescuing a wounded soldier from the battlefield with poison gas, although he wore no gas mask himself, and the coup de grace for outstanding bravery in a military artillery barrage that left him with a broken spine. After the war, he became a successful accountant. He was happily married with 2 children when he heard God's call to the ministry. When Fox went back to school and later was ordained as a Methodist minister, when war came, he once again enlisted, telling his wife, I've got to go. I know from experience what our boys are about to face, and they need me. Before he boarded the Dorchester, he wrote a letter to his daughter. I want you to know, he wrote, how proud I am that your marks in school are so high, but always remember that kindness and charity and courtesy are more than important. Fox began active duty on August 8, 1942, and served until that fateful morning on February 3, 1943.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask former Post 209 Adjutant Ernie Durant to come up to read for Chaplain Alexander D. Goody, once again escorted by one of our Girl Scouts.
Alexander D. Gooding, Jewish rabbi, born May 10, 1911. Growing up in Washington, D.C., Alexander Goody was an outstanding athlete and scholar. Following in his father's footsteps, this young man, known for his laughter and love of life, became a rabbi. Even as he pursued his studies, he found the time to serve in the National Guard. The return of the body of the unknown soldier to Arlington National Cemetery had a profound effect on Goody. He attended the ceremonies, choosing to walk the 15 miles there and 15 miles back, rather than take the car or a bus, because he thought it showed more respect. Goody married his childhood sweetheart, and they had a daughter. He was serving in a synagogue in York, Pennsylvania, when World War II broke out. One day, Mrs. Goody received a telegram from her husband that read, "Having a wonderful experience." She knew that her husband had found companions with whom he could share his faith and humor. He served on active duty from August 9, 1942 until February 3, 1943.
At this time, I'd like to ask for the American Legion Auxiliary Unit 209 President Jane Wright to come up and read for Chaplain Clark Pulling, escorted once again by one of our Girl Scouts.
Clark Pooling was the youngest of 4 chaplains and the 7th generation of an unbroken line of ministers in the Dutch Reformed Church. When World War II broke out, he was anxious to go, but not as a chaplain. "I'm not going to hide behind the church in some safe office out of the firing line," he told his father. The elder Pooling replied, "Don't you know that chaplains have the highest mortality rate of all? As a chaplain, you'll have the best chance in the world to be killed. You can't just carry a gun to kill anyone yourself." So the young man left his pastorate in Schenectady, New York, and became a U.S. Army chaplain. Just before he sailed, Pulling asked his father to pray for him, "Not for my safe return, that wouldn't be fair. Just pray that I shall do my duty and have the strength and the courage and understanding of men. Just pray that I shall be adequate." Indeed, he taught his men not to harbor personal hatred for the Germans and the Japanese. "Hate the system that made your brother evil," he said. "It is a system we must destroy." Pooling began active duty on June 10, 1942, and served until February 3, 1943.
At this time, I'd like to ask the immediate past commander of Post 209 and current District 1 commander, Ray LaBossiere, to come up on behalf of Chaplain John Washington.
John Washington grew up in the toughest section of Newark, New Jersey. Poor, scrappy, and determined, one of 9 children born to an Irish immigrant family. He was blessed with a sunny disposition and a love of music. He also loved a good fight and was a member of the South 12th Street Gang when he was called to the priesthood. He played ball with the boys of the parish, organized sports teams, and when the war broke out, went with his boys into the Army. He began active duty on May 9th, 1942, raised in song and prayer to comfort those around him. Washington's beautiful voice could be heard above the cries of the dying in his final moments on February 3rd, 1943.
Please join us as we sing hymn number 697, America. Okay, at this time we're going to be doing the laying of the wreaths. I'm going to mention the names of the individuals conducting this. I believe we still have it in the programs, but I'm going to mention it anyways. We have Miss Forestville, 2018, Jillian Duffy. Miss Bristol, 2018, Victoria Lemmy. Miss Chrysanthemum, 2017, Emma Gilmet. And Miss Harford County Outstanding Teen, Julia Paul. Will be escorted by Post 209's Ron Gagnon and I believe the Boy Scouts. Commence with the laying of the wreaths. Please stand. Salute. Two. Please be seated. Must be something with that one spot with the candle.
Maybe he's trying to tell you something.
Should I get off of here now, or? At this time, I'd like to ask Paul Miner from Squadron 209 to come on up. He will be presenting the collect.
God of our fathers and our God, we thank you for the unity that the Dorshire chaplains, these 4 men of God, demonstrated in life and in death. Unity that is not uniformity. Unity that strengthens within each of us every worthy loyalty and faith and practice. Unity that transcends all our differences and makes us once in loyalty to our country and to our fellow men and to our God. Grant us now your abiding presence, and may we remain faithful to the spirit of our 4 chaplains, whose having legends to live and serve together in death were not divided.
Okay, at this time, please stand for taps. Hand salute. Two. That was Courtney John Pierre, a Terryville High School student. Thank you, Courtney. Okay, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Be seated. At this time, I'd like to ask Unit 209's Finance Officer, Claire Gagnon, to come up and read In Flanders Fields.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We the dead, short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Okay, at this time, please join us as we sing hymn number 717, Battle Hymn of the Republic. Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask Post 209 Senior Vice Commander and District 1 Junior Vice Commander Tim McLeod. He will now lead us in the benediction. Please stand.
Our Heavenly Father, we deem this a fitting time to pay our respects to these four departed heroes who gave up their precious lives so others may live. As we stand with bowed heads in reverence to them, let us remember the good deeds these four accomplished. Let us revere them as God's soldiers who administered their faith amongst those who were fighting the good fight for a just cause. Let us silently pray for the peace that these four chaplains were preaching in life, the peace that passes all understanding. As we stand before these four fallen men of their peace, may we sincerely say, may their souls rest in peace. Amen.
Okay, please be seated. If you notice, I've been trying to do this with my glasses. Is that big enough? First, once again, I'd like to thank everyone for being here for this ceremony. See a lot of new faces. I hope you enjoyed it. It's something that we take great pride in here at Post 209 and actually throughout the American Legion. This is one of, I believe, 4 Legion posts in the state that honor the 4 chaplains. But this is done nationwide. If you look at your programs, you'll see that there's a national chapel in Philadelphia, and they have been honored. And after reading this or hearing the story, you know why they've been honored every year. I mean, it's something that needs to be done. I'd like to say a few words before we retire the colors and conclude this ceremony. Post 209 would like to give a special thank you to all in attendance here this evening. Your presence ensures that the legacy and sacrifice of these 4 heroic chaplains will live on. It's important that we never forget not only these 4 chaplains, but all those like them that have given the ultimate sacrifice for this great country and all the citizens of this great land. The story of the 4 chaplains, It is our duty and our obligation to teach and carry on the legacy and memory of this historic story. It is our duty to teach the next generation and generations to follow so that they will never be forgotten. When we leave here tonight, please keep these 4 chaplains in your thoughts and pass on their story. Since these 4 belong to 4 different denominations, we plan on starting to hold this ceremony at different places of worship starting in 2019. This is the 3rd annual ceremony that we've had here at Asbury. We're trying to improve this each year, and I believe we have. For those who have been coming since day one, we've done an awful lot to try to enhance this, but we thought it'd be a good idea to move to other places in the community to pass the word. This will help with our commitment to enhance the ceremony each year and to bring the story of the 4 chaplains to a larger segment of the community. With that being said, everybody knows that afterwards there's pizza out in the hall. There's refreshments. I hope everyone stops. And once again, I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. At this time, we're going to retire the colors. Please stand. Scoutmaster, commence with the retiring of the colors. Salute. 2. Yeah.
Retire colors.
Stay up. And salute.
Reassemble.
Two. That concludes this ceremony. We wish you a good night and safe journey home. And please stop down in the hall, have a piece of pizza. I believe they have some cookies down there and some refreshments. I don't know if there's coffee. There's coffee and sodas. Once again, thank you very much for being here.